is Chuck. Come along with me to Chuckadelphia. See you there. Yo, Chuckadelphians, I'm here in Blackwood, New Jersey at Dr. Fortino's office for Talkin' Philly English. I've lost 244 pounds so far, so I know that health matters, and I'm sure that health matters to you. Why not learn English health vocabulary? Come on along, and let's get started with Dr. Fortino. Okay, Chuckadelphia, I'm here with Dr. Fortino, and he's going to be helping us out with some sample sentences with English today. So the first health phrase that we're going to talk about with is workout. When it is two words, it is a verb that means to exercise, right? So for example, I work out by going to the Riverwinds almost every day, right? But when it's one word, it's a noun. So for example, today was shoulder day, and I had a great workout today. So let's see how Dr. Fortino works out. So Dr. Fortino, how do you work out?
Working out is very personal, and you start to cultivate a sense of time for yourself, your mind, to get into this routine of doing something physical. That could be running, jogging, jumping rope, calisthenics. It can even be weightlifting, swimming. There's many ways to work out. And the actual verb, the action, would be where you're physically moving your body. My workout consists of resistance training. I like to lift weights, I like to pick things up and put them down, pick things up and put them down. And that repetitive pattern we create is very personal. It also makes you feel good because you start to see that, oh, I can take it a step further. I can swim another lap. I can run another lap around the track. I can put 10 more pounds on the bar. So it's very vast and wide. A workout and to work out, correct?
Okay.
So it's very vast and wide, and how you develop that is very personal, very important.
And how often do you work out?
I try to work out. I try to do the actual exercise 5 times a week. I do believe rest is very important. To rest, or a rest. So, like you said, a verb and a noun.
Yeah.
To rest in between workouts is very important because your muscles have to have time to grow. And it's in that resting period where they're feeding on nutrients, they're repairing the microscopic damage that you've created through resistance training or whatever your exercise routine is. So to rest and a rest, they're very, very important, yes.
Okay, very cool. Next phrase is to cut back on. And that means to reduce something for health, right? So I cut back on cheesesteaks to lose 244 pounds. What about you, Dr. Fortino? What is something you have cut back on?
I cut back on a lot of sugar. Bread is a big component of American diet. Bread, and some kind of bread. It doesn't have to be an actual loaf of bread. Most people in Europe get baguettes or something similar, focaccia bread. But I've cut down a lot of bread. It's a pretty big staple in America. We eat a lot of sliced, processed bread. It's poor quality. The basic components to bread are the flour, and that's what I cut down a lot of.
Okay. Okay. Now, if someone wants to lose weight, other than bread, what is something they should cut back on first?
The main ingredient that we are moving out of our body, leaving out of our body, is processed sugar. It's in everything you can think of that has a package. Salad dressing, yogurts. And you have to understand how to read the ingredients. You look for things like cane sugar, cornstarch, modified food starch. These are sugars. Sucralose. These are different types of sugars. So it doesn't have to just say sugar. Fruit has sugar, but fruit, what God gives us, is bound with fiber as well, which is very important for your gut. But just straight sugar, we know and we can recognize danger things like a sleeve of Oreo cookies. But what's the difference between that and, say, some type of processed bread? They're basically the same ingredients, almost. They are very similar. So to recognize these chemicals that are equal to sugar, or that the government allows us to put into food, but say no sugar added, let's say.
Yeah.
That's the key. You got to look at things. There are products out there that say 0 sugar, but they have other things in them.
Yeah.
Are they really good for your gut microbiome? And that's a key you have to work at. But once we reduce it out, your body, your body will feel better.
Okay. Expression is an idiomatic expression, which is to feel under the weather, which is simply a way of saying that you're sick, right? So I felt under the weather after an Eagles game in the rain. What about you, Dr. Fortino? Could you complete this sentence for me? When I feel under the weather, I like to
sleep.
Sleep.
A lot of people are probably under the weather because of lack of sleep or stress, maybe stress in their life, combinations of lifestyle. We could be in a crowd of people, someone was sneezing, now you're sneezing and you feel like you have a cold. It makes you feel like your body needs to sleep, and it probably does.
Yeah.
Sleep is the one component we still don't know why we do, but it's something that everybody has to do. And you need it to restore the way you feel, the way you think, the way you digest. It's very restorative for everything. So sleep is important. Rest is important. You said you have to work out, but rest is very important.
Also, do you take time off from working out when you're feeling under the weather, or do you still find a way to work out?
That depends. For me, if I really feel bad, I probably won't work out. Correct. But that's been very far and few in between. And that's a great question. Would you work out if you had a fever? Probably not. But that's obvious. But if you really feel like you haven't slept well, you've been stressed, maybe that's a time to work out. Maybe not at 100%, maybe at 80%, maybe at 70%. But sometimes, or just a smaller routine helps you feel better. So you might be feeling under the weather, approaching the gym, you get yourself moving, and you start to feel good.
Yeah.
Because a lot of things happen when you start to move, that fight or flight, your sympathetic drive, your cortisol changes, it makes you feel better.
Yeah. And even if you don't go to the gym out of fear of getting anybody else sick, it's probably a good idea to at least move your body and walk around a little bit.
Go for
right?
a walk, that's right.
For a walk. So that's it, my fellow Chuckadelphians. We learned work out, cut back on, and feel under the weather with Dr. Fortino and his Blackwood, New Jersey office. Which phrase do you like the best? I want you to use one in a sentence in the comments, right? I'll reply to my favorites. So, for example, what do you need to cut back on? Right? Finish the sentence like Dr. Fortino did. When I feel under the weather, I like to, what? Okay? And how often do you work out? And what do you think is your hardest workout? For me, I think my hardest workout is shoulders. Shoulder day is pretty hard. How about you? What's your hardest workout?
Generally, it's a compound movement like squat. Squat is a hard workout. And that could be, I'm old, my knees hurt, my hips hurt.
Yeah.
So, I tend to really try to complete the routine even though the weight might be more than what I probably should be using. But as I'm getting older, I'm definitely feeling I can still press the weight, similar to what I was when I was 20. But my body, your body, you have to listen to your body too. But that's your harder routines are compound movements like squat or shoulder press, where you're moving two joints. And everybody has their own, so it's not to say that
Okay.
But I like to work on the squat the most because it's hard to do.
Yeah. Deadlifts are pretty hard too.
Deadlifts are also hard. Yes, I always find in doing that it can be challenging. Some days I can pick up more weight. Some days I'm just struggling.
Yeah.
And on those days you're probably more fatigued. You probably have less sleep. You take it down a notch.
Yeah.
Take it down a notch. Make it comfortable, but don't quit. Don't leave the gym.
Right.
I think it's always best to finish it through.
Okay. All right. Cool. Cool. Well, this is some health English, talking Philly English with Chuck with the Philly Diet Doc, Dr. Fortino. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next week with some talking English with Chuck. Take care.
See you later.
On Chuckadelphia. Ciao. All right.